I took my power back, I realized that I didn't need to live my life sort of being a victim of my circumstance. I had the ability to change. And I think a lot of times when we complain about things, it's okay. Like sometimes people need to vent and bond in that way. There's a quote that the feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. So I think sometimes sharing, complaining, and negative things is a way people bond. And sometimes it's very true. Like if you don't have sufficient PPE at your work and sufficient support staff and sufficient supplies, but it's not really complaining about that when you're voicing it and you're frustrated and you're trying to advocate and expose that frustration. But on the flip side of that, I will say for me, another turning point was I realized that at a certain point, incessant, obsessive ruminating, complaining, and negativity was a symptom of my being unhappy. And that was feeding into my feeling of powerlessness. Mm-hmm. And that became a toxic, negative thing that was keeping me there. And so then I started to ask myself, how are things working for you, Erin? How's that working for you? How long have I lived like this? And why am I choosing to live like this? So for me, I just realized becoming healthier was kind of a combination of self-care, but self-awareness. And a big part of that for me was cutting back on negative people in my life, people that were just always negative, changing things to being positive, trying to build up a support team of positive family and friends has been huge in my life. And I still work on that every day.
I think one of the things that you said that was so amazing was when you said taking your power back. And so the question I have is, when did you lose that power?
I think you lose that power when you say to yourself that I'm not in control, that anything that makes me unhappy is someone else's fault, something else's fault. It's not my responsibility. And that kind of sounds like tough love, because I know a lot of my friends and colleagues and myself have legitimate complaints about a toxic work environment, a system that is struggling to make changes that we all know should happen. Those are legitimate things. But on a daily basis, the bottom line is we are responsible for our own happiness, healthiness, and self-care. I hate to sound harsh, but we can do a little bit of tough love for ourselves and say, hey, we do have power to make changes. And that starts with your thinking, your thought process, and gratefulness. It's a change, I think, in your attitude.
For us, by us, and just for us, this is hope for med.